You mentioned obviously Chris Nowinski, Dr. Chris Nowinski, former WWE wrestler superstar himself, but the work that he's done with the Concussion, Legacy Foundation is fantastic, way beyond the world of wrestling, but in terms of provided education around the risks that athletes in all arts kind of expose themselves to. When did you? I guess obviously you knew Chris from your WWE days. When
Yeah,
did
I
you kind
already
of
knew
reach
him
out to him about the concussion
almost
concerns?
immediately. I already knew him. I was already really interested in the whole program. I had already donated my brain and spine to the study. They got to wait till post mortem, but
Yeah, can't give yet.
and through that, they used to give us annual tests, the cognitive tests, like twice a year over the phone. And that program that did that is no longer around, but the CLF still is. But Chris would, even back in the day, come to the arenas sometimes and give like little like seminars, to the boys, show them little movie clips and teach all of the wrestlers, because we did know that we needed to protect ourselves and that long-term damage was a possibility. And
Mm.
one thing that really broke through and woke a lot of us up in the wrestling world was the tragic story of Chris Benoit.
Mm.
And for anybody that doesn't know, if been living under a rock, um, this guy was a really good wrestler, and I've known him since the early 90s anyway, and wrestled him, had a lot of great matches, respected him just like everybody did.
Mm.
And the guy went nuts, and he, over a weekend, murdered his wife and his son and then himself, according to the story. And when they studied his brain, they found that he had a really bad case of CTE.
Mm.
And I remember hearing that his brain was comparable to like an Alzheimer's patient that's in their 70s.
Mm.
And that's what CTE is. It's a degenerative, like wasting disease, like Alzheimer's. So many of my peers automatically, like, they assume that they have CTE, and they don't. But I've heard so many people in interviews say, come on, we all have CTE, at least a little bit. And it's kind of sad that even that they're talking about concussion symptoms to that degree, because a lot of my peers, especially from my generation, almost all of them, in fact, do say that they get some symptoms, whether it's sensitivity to light, floaters, whatever it is. But they don't have CTE though. And I'm not saying nobody has it. That's why it's good to find out what's going on. And CLF is the place to go now, because CLFhelpline.org can hook you up with support groups, answer questions, find doctors for you, all that stuff that isn't readily available in an emergency panic situation when you need it. So CLFhelpline.org. And so, yeah, after that Chris Benoit thing happened and we saw his brain, Chris Nowinski was always trying to get everyone to open their eyes and realize the comparison between the impact of football players and the car crashes that wrestlers go through in the ring
Mm.
every match. And he got some pushback. People didn't want to hear about it. I went with him. And this was way before I had the symptoms myself. I was involved, but I remember being in Los Angeles with him and the guy Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins, and it was like an auditorium, and it was set up to educate the coaches on implementing some safety into their protocols. And man, they did not want to hear it. They were just old school, back then, thinking, there's no proof that, there's that old school good old boys mentality, like, we didn't wear our seatbelts when we grew up. So why should you now? And I saw, like, wow, they just were not ready to make changes. And change is always um, difficult and gets a lot of pushback. Always, that's part of moving forward. But thank God, Chris had an agenda, made an awesome wonderful, meaningful purpose
Yeah.
out of his life, his job, and I'm glad to be part of it.